Artificial intelligence, machine learning, powered by analytics and algorithms, are going to be used currently selectively to resolve complex business issues, and it is going to become a critical tool in decision making process to resolve the complex business solutions for the HR leaders. Come 2021, it is going to be a critical part of HR operational management and HR strategy tool. Yes, you heard us right. Machine learning is in an HR leader must equip their team so that they can harness the power of machine learning. Welcome back to the live wire from Bostonica, brought to you by CHPA team. And this is our fifth and the last of the live wire, and we're going to talk a very interesting topic today about machine learning in HR strategy and planning. And today we have with us exciting panel of speakers, which you must have heard them last time, and we're going to continue our discussion. Let me welcome Abhijit, the course director of CHPA, Rajeshri, Chartered FCIPD HR Director at Landmark Group, Engineering Bashir. He is one of the think tank analytics champion from Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Welcome all.
Thank you.
Abhijit, what you have with us for today? Machine learning. Tell us.
So Sandeep, this is the last of the Game Changer series, and we have already discussed most of it that we are covering in the CHPA course. But there is one part of the discussion that is still left, and that is around machine learning, a word that all of us have been hearing and will continue hearing this for some time to come. And I thought that without bringing in machine learning in the gamut of the CHPA course, the course doesn't get completed. So what we'll be doing today is we'll try to understand what machine learning is and how does it fit into the CHPA Game Changer series. Because my vision is that CHPAs will be leading the use of machine learning in not only the HR strategy and planning, but also organization strategy and planning in times to come. So what we'll do is we'll quickly go through a small definition kind of a thing of what is machine learning and what machine learning comprises of, and then we will open the forum to things like when do we start doing machine learning within the organization, how does machine learning help an HR planning and strategy process, etc. And I'm quite sure with the experience that we have in the panel, we will have a very, very good discussion. So quickly,
Abhijit, just hold on, Abhijit. Now, before we jump into today's talk, just take us through to the last four live voice series we have taken, and just give us a glimpse to the listeners and the viewers that how we have come to this the stage 5 of CHPA. What all did we discuss during this last four live wires, and how we are now going to conclude the machine learning, which is aligned with the modules of CHPA?
I would say in the last 4 sessions, we have discussed 4 key aspects of a CHPA's life. So one of them was definitely employee lifecycle management, where we tried understanding what is an employee lifecycle management, how is it different from HR strategy and planning in the traditional sense, wherein we discussed how it employees are now connected to the overall organization objectives, and they are looked at as a resource rather than a liability. So they have stopped being a cost center, but rather uh, we are always continuously working towards an ROI on the investment an organization is making on the employees, on the employees. The other part was about what role does analytics play in HR strategy and planning. What is the analytics cycle? How does it bring more visibility to the business, more predictability to the business, etc. And how CHPAs can utilize the power of analytics to take the cost forward. The third was around what is the importance of data and how data enhances the power of employee lifecycle management. So, how the traditional form of HR functions are turning into a more objective based, measurable initiatives that brings us the required ROI on every initiative that we are taking. Now, this not only helps the HR managers or HR directors in carrying out their own functions, but increasingly with courses like CHPs coming in, they'll be more aligned to the top management. So they are becoming ready to play leadership roles, not only in their own divisions, but in at an organization level. So once they start understanding the connect between the employees and the organization objectives as such, they are in a better position to lead the organization. That was the third part, and I have a goldfish memory. You can. What was the fourth one we discussed? I think we did analytics, we did employee lifecycle management, we did data, and Rashi, do you remember the fourth topic that we had discussed in this forum?
We have discussed about employee life cycle management. The last was analytics, HR analytics, importance
Yes,
on HR analytics.
yes,
And then we discussed
and
how machine
yeah,
And
learning.
and one of the
Sorry.
key things was problem solving. So one session we dedicated on problem solving. It was more around structuring a problem.
The
Now,
last, the last Abhijit, the last one was
yeah,
ROI.
yeah, ROI. So
yeah,
as I
ROI.
told you, that employee lifecycle management contained the ROI part, but there was one session which we dedicated on the problem solving process using McKinsey's 7 steps. And I won't say it's a module, but it's a platform that as CHPA, we are using in almost everything that we do. So the whole objective of a problem solving exercise is that are we messy in terms of what we are doing. So all the options that we are considering while solving a problem, are we ensuring that these are mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive? So if I'm telling about what are the drivers of attrition in an organization, are we able to structure the problem in such a manner that there is no stone unturned? Now, we may see it as a module, we are studying it as a module, but I see it as a basic necessity for the CHP life cycle itself. So there is, even if I'm thinking about drinking a coffee tomorrow, I will still have to do a problem solving on how to make the best coffee out of the resources that we have got. So extremely important aspect of a CHP's life, because as we go ahead in terms of data analytics, not machine learning, AI, the role of the CHPs is more towards structuring the problem and structuring the communication rather than getting their hands dirty on the data science part of it. And I think the last four sessions made it very clear that the CHPA program is not aimed towards creating data scientists, but it is aimed towards creating data driven strategists who can work with a team of data scientists to take things forward in a more structured manner. So if you see all the 4 modules, we have almost covered everything, including the benefits of machine learning, because the benefits will be discussed or are in line with analytics that we discussed earlier. But there is a fundamental difference between when we say data analytics and machine learning. And today we will differentiate between those two. It will start from a very academic point of view, that how analytics differs from machine learning or how similar are they. I can't still say that I'm 100% clear about the differentiation or communication of the differentiation, because this has been a topic of debate for the last 5 to 10 years. That how is machine learning different, or are they two completely disjoint activities, or they overlap with each other? So when you take analytics a step forward, machine learning comes in, and that's what we will be discussing today. I am not expecting CHPAs to be machine learning experts, but I am expecting CHPAs to lead the way in designing use cases where machine learning can be used. You can understand why is the case that we will be discussing as we go along. So before we move forward, can we quickly go through what is machine learning? And
Abhijit, before we go to the what is machine learning, we have today we have got a very important day. Today is the 49th UAE National Day, and the whole country is celebrating. So we wish the entire UAE nation, the people, the citizens, the expats, the community there in UAE, happy 49 UAE National Day, and we extend our wishes from Bostanica and from the CHPA team as the whole country is drowned in celebration. So now,
yes, sir. Again, all the best wishes to UAE. It has been a role model of sorts to half the world, and it continues to be. And I wish them many more such uh, important days in the coming years. In fact, that reminds me, Sheikh Mohammed is one of the pioneers in promoting machine learning and AI, and it's a right day to discuss this topic, because this is going to lead. The next oil in the Middle East is through the machine learning exercise of data. So once, as we go on exhausting the natural resource that we have, we will keep generating the data resource that we will be using in the future. So yes, Sadiq. So finally, we go to the machine learning part of it. So in one of the sessions, we were discussing that we have something called analytics, and through analytics, we are bringing in predictability or forecasting or a better utilization of the data for future uh, uh, course of action. Now, what happens in analytics is that we are trying to develop a program which can help me predict a particular output. So I have the data with me, which is the past data. Now I'm trying to build certain rules which will help me predict an outcome for the future. Now that normally is a predictive analytics process. Machine learning is a very similar concept done in a different way. So what we do in machine learning is that we have seen data regarding the input of certain things, and we have also seen the results, that is the output. So we collect all input data and output results and try and build a program through a machine learning process, wherein the machine tells me what is the best way to reach the output through the data. So I am not feeding in the logic. I am only feeding in the data, which is the input and the output, and I'm letting the computer decide what is the best way of reaching there. Now, The reaching there can be of two types. One, uh, I want a desired outcome to be predicted, or I want groupings to be done. I want to learn if there is a pattern underlying the data. Now, both of them helps me uh, automate the whole process. So if I am talking about, I am doing predictive analytics or analytics in order to automate the prediction of outcomes. The automation of the process itself is machine learning. So that is the whole concept. Now there can be two outputs to it, or two different kind of machine learning expectation, which is, one is supervised. If you can go to the next slide, Sandeep. So as you can see, there are two types of machine learning algorithms. One is the supervised machine learning algorithms, and the second is unsupervised. The supervised machine learning algorithms usually is used for either classification purposes, where I'm trying to classify a group of objects into different sets with some already known outcome results. The second is I'm trying to predict a part of my data from my knowledge of the other part of data in the past. Now these are supervised, where I know the outcome and I'm trying to form an algorithm which can help me ascertain these outcomes and can be used for automation purposes in the coming years. Now, one of the main uses of this kind of algorithm is that a lot of operational jobs can be automated and a machine can take care, especially when the volume of that job is repetitive and more. So, for example, say from an HR perspective, every quarter I want to sit and see who are the employees in my organization who are likely to leave. Now, I can do it through predictive analytics. Every time I make a model and I see who have the high probability of leaving, and then take an action. So, if I have 3 months window, 1 month goes in making the model, the other month goes in planning, and so on and so forth. And I have only 15 days to take action on them. Now, what I do is, through machine learning, I draw an algorithm and automate it. So the machine learning runs itself, the machine learning algorithm runs itself at required intervals and gives me the output. And I'm now free of using that output for business initiatives. The other one is the classification or clustering, where I want to understand, is there underlying pattern in a group of data which can help me segregate the data on either behavioral aspects or any other common factors, where each one can be treated differently, especially in today's organization where there are multiple cultures, multiple nationalities working together, multiple behavioral aspects. Can we have common traits and group them separately? So these are the machine learning groups. There are others also, so I have not spoken about them because it is not wise to get complicated at this stage. But broadly, there are two, which is supervised and unsupervised machine learning algorithms. And now we will explore the more important aspect of it, that how is it used in HR? Why do I need machine learning in HR strategy and planning? How does it help me? A part of it we have already discussed in the analytics session, that how does analytics helping employee lifecycle management. We will now look at it from more machine learning perspective and discuss if machine learning is useful in the process of HR strategy and planning. Now, in the last session, we have already seen that there are 6 broad functional areas, from attraction to recruitment to onboarding, management of employees, attrition management, and separation. Now, in each one of them, there are issues that we see. Some of these issues will be addressed by machine learning in an ongoing basis. And I now invite Rajeshri to tell me, Rajeshri, when you are looking at the employee lifecycle management process, what are the key problems that come to your mind? What kind of issues that you're trying to address during the recruitment process, and we'll see if we can address it through machine learning process.
So, Abhijit, one of the areas, let's say to begin with in recruitment alone, um, is to do with the screening planning or the screening strategy. So obviously, we do make use of applicant tracking systems by various portals, job portals that many of our organizations are using. However, it still becomes a lot of what do you say, uh, you know, challenging process when it comes to identifying your keywords while you're trying to ensure that the job requisition and the job responsibilities which are published by the job portals are attracting and screening and filtering the right talent pool in that entire process, because you're relying so much on the ATS system. There is a possibility of many talent pool or many candidates which do not get an opportunity to come to the next round or to the first page of viewing while we are trying to screen more than 1,000 CVs at a time, when especially when times like this where the demand is less and the supply is more in the job market, we do face a challenging situation. And this is where I personally see that machine learning plays a very, very critical role, because like all aspects of modern business, technology is changing the way we operate and function. And I do not see why human resources shall be an exception. So, yeah, that is one area, one challenge, especially targeting recruitment, we face in our daily routine jobs. So, yeah.
So you're saying that the normal process in recruitment is that your team receives, say, thousands of resumes, and the first step is to go through them and shortlist the resumes that goes for interview process. And you can understand that when you are sitting on 1,000 resumes, you are not justifying the presence of 1,000 resumes. You are actually reviewing them and shortlisting as you go along. And if you fulfill the quota of 10 resumes that needs to be sent to the interviewing team, then the rest of the resumes actually remain unprocessed, isn't it? Uh, at this moment,
Absolutely.
I think most of the people are also using text analytics. So you decide your key words and then run an algorithm to see which of the resumes have these keywords and then shortlist them. That becomes a process. This itself is a start of the analytics process, data driven analytics process. But imagine, and this is what I call that you decide the keywords and then you build an algorithm to find out the already decided keywords to shortlist the resumes. Now you are in the process creating another set of data. What you're creating is that while you're screening the resumes, you have a set of rejected resumes and you have a set of selected resumes within your portfolio, and don't consider all those resumes which have not been evaluated by you. Among those which are evaluated, you can divide them into selected and rejected. And now if you can build, if you can allow the computer to build you an algorithm to find out which are the right set of keywords itself for which decides a resume is selected or not. Now you will see that the kind of words that are coming in, the pattern that is thrown in, is a lot different from what you have already generated, because the machine is capable of analyzing more amount of data from more angles than a human mind. And that is the limitation of the human mind, not anything else. The logic is still human, because uh, subconsciously we have rejected a set of resumes and selected a certain resumes. Each selected one is based on undocumented logics. Now, instead of trying to document the logic myself, what I'm trying to do is I'm feeding in the input and output. So I've fed in all the resumes that we evaluated. I've also fed in which of them were selected, and I'm asking the computer to give me a sort of word pattern which can help me select the resumes or shortlist the resumes for interview. Now that process is a machine learning process. That algorithm which goes behind identifying the pattern is a machine learning algorithm. This is one of the examples. Uh, Engineer Bashir, I think you would be aware of many such processes which goes on, or typical problems which can be faced by HR professionals, isn't it? And not only HR professionals, any business professionals.
Absolutely. In terms of specifically talking about HR and HR processes, machine learning can help you cut time and cut the effort down into a tenth or a fraction of what it is in order for you to do the job. For example, sifting through thousands resume, you can hire 5, 10 people to do this, and they will do it, maybe not as efficient, and pick up on certain words or whatnot. Machine learning can allow you to go through all of those resumes, look at specific keywords or specific functions or specific graduation, and the machine learning algorithm can also go and link that person, check his LinkedIn profile, his Facebook profile, go into a number of factors, and then decide that this is your best candidate with X percentage of reliability, that he will fit the match or the job that you want. So that's on one aspect of it. The second aspect, which you've already mentioned, it's clustering your employees into groups of people who may be higher risk at attrition, and then you can start evaluating whether or not your business can or would suffer less if you find a way to keep those people or take the decision to let them go. How are you going to replace them with who? All of these systems can marry each other and provide you with a solid way of looking at business challenges, and then try to solve them, whether systematically or using machine learning. Another aspect of machine learning that you could apply into your business is basically on business day-to-day activities, such as fraud detection, supply and demand, stocking options. It could start helping your business keep running at certain levels. This can go on for hours with me. I have many examples of machine learning uh, interfaces that I've personally worked with that help me either predict the business growth, predict problems that are coming, help me better manage the business inside in terms of capabilities, of what do I need in terms of what kind of training do I need, what kind of people do I need to conduct those trainings, or what people who do I send to take those trainings. So Abhijit, you let me know what part or what fraction of machine learning you are looking at, and then I can advise you to tell you, yes, sure, you can invest here or invest there, you can do this, or I do recommend you do that. Whichever way, it's the aspect that you're looking for specifically that will help you either benefit from machine learning or just it's an extra cost on your company. So it's a very delicate balance, understanding what you need and having the information to provide the machine so the machine can learn from it and then start giving you the decisions or recommendations, actually, not decision, and then for you to take action on that. It all depends on your needs, your requirements. One last thing to add, me personally, right now, I have been asked to start up a database and start doing the analytics for the department that I work at in the government sector. And after evaluating so many things, including machine learning options, I found out that I can go to a whole different entity. It's called Saudi data artificial intelligence agency, and they have all the data, and they can use all that data to do all the analytics for me at the current stage. So I don't need to invest in infrastructures. I don't need to work in so many things and aspects of data acquisition and machine learning and servers and so on and so forth. I can do all of that using them. And then later on down the road, because of the sensitivity of what I do or the impact of what I do, then I could decide to go and invest in machines and servers for machine learning specifically.
Uh, Thank you so much, Inja Bashir. Actually, you brought in two key aspects to the whole thing. The first one was when you spoke about uh, while recruiting, we can use the social media data. We are not only helping shortlist resumes, we are actually augmenting the resumes. So when I have the capability of analyzing social media data, I can also start building the part of the resume which is not mentioned. So any prospective employee writes a resume keeping in mind that what he wants his employers to know about him. I can augment that with the social media data, including that part of his personality which is not voluntarily disclosed but can act as an important source of information. Because my cost of hiring is quite high, and my cost of failure to hire the right candidate is even higher. So, machine learning is helping us in not only analyzing the data better, automating the processes, but also in augmenting the data itself by utilizing sources which were earlier not imaginable to be used. The second thing that you told was the fraud management aspect. Again, a very, very key thing. We have discussed this earlier also. There are certain aspects in an organization which personally I feel, and many of my colleagues would also agree, that should be handled by HR. So an internal fraud is something which is not the primary responsibility of compliance team, but should start from the HR team. Since we are not into machine learning and analytics, we have passed it on to the compliance team. But the employee conduct is a responsibility of the HR department, and hence the internal fraud should be an integral part of the HR department. What do you say, Sandeep and Rajshri? Because you have been HR managers in various capacities.
Rajshri, you'll take on?
I completely agree, Abhijit. To
Perfect. So the last thing before we move on to the next thing,
Can you hear me?
uh, machine learning is used where the volume of work is heavy. If the volume of work is not too big, then there is no point investing in machine learning, isn't it? Because if there are only 1,000 resumes to be evaluated, then I would rather put 10 people evaluating 100 resumes and get it done. And a manual inspection is always better than a machine inspection, because there are untold subconscious level screening that we are doing at any point of time. But imagine that 1,000 is 10,000. The kind of resources I need to evaluate 10,000 resumes is phenomenal. So when the volume increases, the repetitive nature of the work increases, it takes us away from the strategic work to more operational work. And that is where technologies like machine learning is of prime importance. Yes, Sandeep.
Rajshri, you are pitching in something. Then I'll pitch in.
So I am in complete sync with Engineer Bashir's inputs and Abhijit's inputs. The reason why I say so is yes, machine learning is playing a very critical role in current times and changing the way HR function has been in the traditional era. The reason I call this out very loud and clear is because I'm sure you must be aware that there are many organizations, including my current organization, where we are trying to evaluate several HR functions that can be taken over by machine learning. To give you an example, is introduction of bots, to deal with any sort of employee help desk creation, where we can look into critical functions of HR that can be focused, while machines take care of anything that can be taken care just over chat box, or introducing bots. So yeah.
You see, Abhijit, apart from resume, there are very selective areas where machine learning can be used very effectively by the correct use of algorithm, especially predicting, predicting and forecasting. How I'm saying, for example, when you do manpower planning, right? You can create scenarios. You can create a hypothesis that in case of the business grows at X number, so my manpower planning budgeting exercise is going to be the XY. Okay. And then if it is going to have, because the scenario of COVID has pushed us to use more and more such algorithms to create the more risk management scenarios, and to predict scenarios that in case of I can paint a lot of scenarios in case of 40% capacity of my company which is going, or a 50% capacity, or 60% capacity. So accordingly I can use the ramping of my manpower, okay, or the people, or I can scale it up. I can also create, I can have full-time FTE and part-time FTE, part-time employees. I can create the scenario so that my organization is at the lower risk, in case of such scenario happens. So scenario planning, predicting such kind of, future disasters or scenarios is going to be a way forward for the HR strategy per se. Apart from the employee life cycle, employee life cycle is okay. You can manage, you can predict that, okay, certain algorithm I can put it, and because of that, this person has highest probability of leaving the company, right? And this guy has the lowest probability of leaving the company. I can select, these are for my critical positions. All right, so I can plan the initiative accordingly. I can plan my reward accordingly. I can plan my long-term incentive plan accordingly. And whereas, I can live with the baseline employees, even if they leave, my business is not getting affected. So I can be, it's not becoming ruthless, okay, but we need to be really practical, because in today's world, if we don't survive our business, then you're going to wipe out the entire employees. So rather than wiping out the entire employees, let's save and create those scenarios so that tomorrow, if some X kind of a situation comes in, I have my bandwidth, okay, my resources, I can run the business effectively.
Abhijit, you're on mute.
So we have to identify what are the repetitive tasks we are doing. There is no point using machine learning, because machine learning is the outcome of the machine learning is an algorithm that needs to be implemented on the system. And then that algorithm takes care of the repetitive tasks as if it was replicating my mind. And then I can focus on how to utilize the output of that algorithm for business purposes. One example that comes to my mind is we were trying to see how many employees we require to manage 300 odd outlets of a fast food chain. And you can understand that I can run the algorithm. I need to do a huge exercise almost every point of time to predict that. So instead, when we used machine learning, we created an algorithm which then predicts in place of me that how is the demand shifting from one outlet to the other, and what is the optimum number of resources I require to manage the whole process. Now, once made, this algorithm can run by itself, while I am trying to focus more on how do I manage that number of employees within my resources. That is my core job. The calculation is a one-time exercise. which definitely needs business out. But the key question again, Sandeep, is that when does an organization, it's not a cheap exercise. It doesn't come free of cost. It needs an investment. Uh, the key question becomes is that what is the right time to invest? And that's where uh, inputs from people who have done work in HR comes in very handy. Uh, Before we move on to any other aspect of discussing this, when is the right time? So the next slide, I suppose. Yeah. So before we start discussing when one should invest in machine learning, let's understand from Sandeep and Rajeshri how is the budgeting uh, process for the HR department. How do you guys convince the management about the budget you require and for what purpose you require? Yes, Sandeep. Sandeep and Rajeshri, open to both of you. How did you manage to convince your top management about the budget? Sandeep, you are on mute.
Rasha, you'll go, then I'll go.
Okay.
I think Rajshri is doing that now.
Yes. So, number one thing, Abhijit, that currently I am practicing and trying to influence the board is to do market trend analysis. Um, you know, collating information, gathering data from the market insights to understand across the hospitality and restaurant standards within the region what is the current plan and what is the way forward and forecast. So obviously such kind of data gathering exercise is not something which which is gained out of conviction, because this is informal discussions. There is no validity on the data that is getting captured through informal discussions, either via your bottom level employee or even the inside HR person. But the little insights from the market stands as key standpoint while doing the analysis to understand what is the industry standard right now. That's number one exercise. Number two exercise is looking into the current dynamics and the atmosphere within the organization. What are the employees speaking about? What is the current attrition rate? Comparing it to the historicals of last 3 years to understand that same month, same duration, same peak period, what were the attritions in the last 3 years that were looked upon, bringing along different aspects, like if the attrition increases for the core team members, what is the retention cost for the company, what is the replacement cost for the company, and are these roles very critical, or these are roles that can be easily replaceable because the market is right now open and the supply is very high and demanding. Approach of understanding the market and putting into the numbers and budgeting it, comparing it to the previous budget numbers, is one of the ideal way forward. Another thing of the entire manpower planning and budgeting is also looking into the cost perspective. So if the cost and the finance that is allotted for the people cost is locked for the year, or the pot is given, forecasting these numbers for the year forward becomes very challenging. So doing an headcount analysis is the first step. Second step is doing shift wise manning, to identify every hour what is the requirement of the individual and what is the productivity that is going to be expected out of the individual, and then the return on the investment. And then another aspect is, what if we were to outsource employees, contingency plans. What if we were to look at overtime, or backfill employees, or cross function pollination between different talents. So these are certain areas that gets pulled across while getting into the budgeting exercise, while placing your numbers, and after the numbers are getting populated onto the manning sheets, there are number of questions that gets targeted towards the HR leaders, which are to do with why do you need so many people? Why do you when you managed with X number of people in these times, how do you see a ramp up? So explanation as to the economical factors, explanation as to the social factors. For example, UAE, if tourism is going to open up, what are the country's plan or the nation's plan to bring in the crowd? How is it going to impact to the current industry? All of these are to be justified. For every single headcount, there has to be justification. If there is an incremental value that is getting proposed, if there is a loss of pay or cost saving value, then how do you pitch in and say that training is important, or employee morale is important, employee engagement is important? All of these aspects are playing very, very critical role when while we are getting into a budgeting exercise. This is where I am currently um, busy at and worked up with. So yeah.
Right. Okay. From my side, what we do exercise is notwithstanding the current situation. The normal procedure is to at the end of the Q4, generally the next year's forecast of financial forecast is created, and then we do comparative analytics of the existing one this year versus next year, and then what all the areas or thrust areas of HR which needs to be aligned with the business initiatives. So if it is new technology initiatives like in Etisalat, so new technologies like a 5G is getting inducted. So skilling of the people, and hiring of this key critical people in those areas becomes the new thrust areas. And then the other areas, which are the lesser technology area, becomes the low priority areas. And then the areas, those talent which are going to bring in the new revenue, new sources, that becomes our thrust areas. And then the second priority becomes the sustaining talent, who sustain the business. And then the last priority becomes, so basically is the entire, budgeting exercise that gets dovetailed and get aligned with the business strategy. Now in the current scenario could be different. In current scenario will be more focus on, apart from gaining the new share in the business, apart from that is to optimize the cost. Those areas where I, as a head of HR, would like to do an immediate cost, at least of a reward, total component, then a benchmarking with the similar industry or with the other industry side. Then I would like to see those areas where I can go for a more outsourcing, third party outsourcing. Maybe I will be focusing more on retaining those critical talent, and then outsourcing of those areas where it is not adding much significant value to the organization. Now, if we don't survive this organization right now, at least in 2021 and 2022, then it becomes very difficult to justify to the shareholders that we will be able to sustain the next target. Because at the end, when the CEO is on the table with the shareholders and they're going to say that I'm giving you X billions of dollars and I need a return on my investment. So how are you going to justify that? And then he's going to come back to us with, this whole lot of, his pile of, frustration, and he's going to say that, guys, I have this mandate from the shareholders and now you need to create your strategy. And so rather than, he pushing to us, HR should be able to predict that what are the new thrust areas out there and to give and propose the plan accordingly. The minor things becomes, those are operational matters, but the bigger picture needs to get aligned, and minor one, couple of, millions here, couple of millions there, then, that gets adjusted. That's not a main priority areas, but getting those, the share and then sustain that to get that percentage of profitability to the shareholders, because shareholders are going to ask next year. He said, okay, I have already invested this money. I need the return on my investment. Right? COVID or non-COVID, I don't care. Okay. All right. This year I'm going to be a little bit slow, but next year I'm going to get, I need my share back. Okay. So what are you going to do? So you need to little start prioritizing those areas and start focusing on those areas so that it can start generating the revenue.
Engineer Bashir, I think I would request you to chip in because inherently HR, not HR, you are somebody who is passionate about the subject, and you also understand the kind of investments it attracts or it requires. Uh, and this is a very valid and justified question that what is the right time an organization should or HR department should uh, start investing in
Well,
machine learning.
again, we've had this discussion a number of times, whether on a professional level or on a personal level. It all depends on the criticality of your operation and its impact on your finance, on your ability to sustain business, even on your ability to attract and grow that business, if you're looking at that aspect of it. For example, and again, I'm not uh, focusing on this, but it's just an example. If I'm running a company where I have a credit card company or a health insurance company, and my staff needs to look at health claims, I can use machine learning to go and look at the trends, at the people, at the costs that they're incurring or the health claim costs that they're incurring, and then use an algorithm that could tell me with a certain percentage of certainty, um, are these fraudulent transactions or not? That's on one aspect of it. This is the day-to-day running the business. When you're talking about HR, if I'm running a health claim insurance or even a health clinic or a hospital, I depend heavily on my nursing staff and on my medical staff. If I don't know who am I attracting or how are they functioning or what is the workload on them, I can very easily start losing vital and very important uh, people that are running my business, that are helping me achieve my objectives, because they're either overrun or underqualified or overqualified, even though I don't agree to that word. That's on another aspect of it. All in all, when do I need as a company to invest money in machine learning? Again, it depends on the criticality and the immediate need for me to do this. As I already explained a few minutes ago, I am asked to create a database, to do the analytics, to do a lot of things in my organization. When I found a solution that cuts my workload, helps me do things a lot faster for me, and allows me the time to think about whether or not I should invest now and build up capacity or depend on an outsource that is safe and secure to provide me with the data and the results I'm looking for from machine learning. It all depends on the balance. Can your organization handle cloud computing? Can your organization or data of your organization be shared on a cloud platform? Yes or no? Even if everything checks out and you have the money and you have the funds to build that in your in on-prem or on-premise, do you have the technical staff? Do you have the people who know how to write the algorithm, how to read the data, how to fix the data for the machine to start learning? Another very simple issue. You paid 50, 40 million US dollars to build your system to save $100,000 a year or $60,000 a year. I don't think your ROI fits that. However, if you're saving 100 million and you invest 30 million, well, that's okay by me. It justifies. Again, it's about ROI, your need, and the impact that machine learning will have on your business, whether day to day running or expanding or saving you money that or lost opportunity. That's about
So you can
as much
understand
advice as I can give.
no, no, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And if somebody asks me whether CHP answers this question or not, I don't think the CHPA course is meant to answer this question, because CHP is not a consulting uh, initiative. It's an initiative where we are trying to build consultants within the organizations to handle such situations. You can understand, as we were speaking, three of us or four of us, there were so many ideas that were being floated. There is no one single answer to questions like what is the right time of investing in machine learning. A group of experienced CHPs will be able to take that decision based on multiple factors. And while designing the course, one of the key idea was that when we create a batch of people coming from various experience categories, various backgrounds, the cross pollination of ideas on top of the theory that we are doing will give them enough material to think over it and take such crucial decisions. It will be foolish of us to expect that in a matter of 1 hour we create a formula for as important and as critical a question like what is the right time of investment. There are so many factors which goes behind it. But one thing we realize in all that HR department needs somebody who can understand uh, that HR has a more strategic role to play in the organization. When I talk about strategic role, it means the impact of HR is equally important for multiple divisions within the organization. The costs are also divided. If I'm aware of the use of machine learning, then I know where to use it. Once I'm clear about where to use it, how to get the benefit out of it, then I can start taking decisions based on that. The second thing in machine learning is the machine learning algorithms can identify patterns, but it is only based on the data that is fed in, the form the data that is fed in. And that is the experience that the machine looks towards the CHPAs or the data scientists that are working towards that. So in any situation, what kind of data will be required, what form of data will be required is a one-time exercise for every activity that the CHPs will need to take on. So if I'm trying to predict fraud within, say, the retail stores of an organization, so what are the data points that might lead to a fraud is something which needs to be fed into the computer. And that is where the business experience or the experience of understanding data and business comes in. Once that is done, the CHPs are not required to invest the same amount of time in every cycle that the machine learning algorithms will be doing. They are more focused on what to do when these set of employees have been identified doing fraud and what are the initiatives that I do to prevent those frauds. So that is where the CHPA and the machine learning thing combines. It is an integral part of a data driven environment. The step is not towards jumping into machine learning. Step begins with, do I have a database visibility of the business? Do I have the predictive algorithms in place? Am I doing analysis for every small decision that I'm taking? Once these things are in place, automatically I'm creating an environment for higher amount of data to be sourced and processed. I'm building an organization which can work in that data driven environment. And obviously, then it depends on the maturity of the CHPs and the organization itself to decide, when are we supposed to now invest in machine learning process, and what is the ROI that is going to get when we invest in such a process. Before we conclude, we must acknowledge one thing, that these are investments which are not department specific. So a machine learning investment is relevant for most of the departments of the organization. At this moment, There is no leading department. We are depending on IT to synchronize the requirements across departments. I think once HR starts getting into such new age technology decisions, then you can rationalize these investment in a better fashion at a corporate level than what we are doing now. So that is what we are looking at. Sandeep, all yours.
Thank you, Abhijit, and it was pleasure to host you as the course director of CHPA for the last 5 live wires which we had. And we would like to hear a concluding statement from how was your experience and how do you recommend from Engineering Bashir and Rashi before we conclude the series of LinkedIn Live CHPA series. Yeah, Bashir.
Honestly speaking, I wasn't expecting to be challenged at this course, but I was. Different aspects of machine learning or data analysis, even all in all, it just gave me a completely different light and a different flavor about data and analytics in focus on HR, employee life cycle, employment life cycle. It was really something different for me. I've learned a lot. I've been in data and data analytics for the past 6-7 years now, and you still learn something new. This was a steep learning curve for me with the CHP.
Thank you, Engineer Bashir. Rashri.
All I can say is CHPA has literally given me key learnings and takeaways to say that these are the exciting times in the HR industry. And CHPA is the way forward for HR leaders, HR management, portfolio holders, and it is important to those that is involved and is aware that data analytics and machine learning are the next level things in the HR world. The reason, again, I say and repeat, is we are in the era of big data. We are in the era of Internet of Things, which is your IoT, and we are in the era of bots and you know in terms of technology in artificial intelligence as well. So we have to up our game, and CHPA is the way forward for HR professionals, and I highly recommend this to every HR
Thank
professional.
you, Rajashri.
Yeah.
So we thank again the panelists, Abhijit, Engineering Bashir, Rajashri, Chartered FCIPD, for coming into this LinkedIn Live Wire and Twitter Live Wire, Facebook Live Wire, and YouTube Live Wire. We have going on in all the social media, and you must have enjoyed the last 5 live wires, including this one, which we have hosted for CHPA, Certified HR Strategy in Planning and Analytics. And you heard from the horse's mouth that how it has benefited them. You can connect to these numbers, and you can also connect to Abhijit to learn more about CHPA and to more about the content. We highly recommend all HR professionals, at least 7 to 8 years onward, who have got the experience in HR, to go for CHPA certification so that you can harness the power of analytics, the power of machine learning, and the power of artificial intelligence, which is the way forward, as rightly told by our esteemed panelists. Thank you again, and we will see you next on another series of talk on analytics, which we are going to launch a series of certification, which is going to be launched after CHPA, which will be for dashboarding, which will be for the different part of stage of employee life cycle, specialized for the specific areas of HR domain, analytics for HR domain. And Abhijit is working exhaustively, extensively in these certifications. So we wish Abhijit all the good luck to you. And thank you again, Rajashri, Chartered FCIPD, Engineering Bashir, for coming to this live wires. And thank you for giving your insight into how it has helped you and how it can help the HR leaders of tomorrow. Thank you again.